Brought to you by Tarzana Treatment Centers. You can visit our website at www.tarzanatc.org or call 1-800-996-1051.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Finding Hope, The Road to Recovery. I'm Dr. James B. Golden. I'm back again, and I am ready to dig in a little bit deeper into some of the work that we do at TTC College. It's pretty cool, and it's always extraordinary to bring in community change agents. But in particular, I have two of my favorite people in the entire world here to talk about a really important and really urgent topic, especially moving into 2025. The war on drugs, the crack epidemic, the 3 strikes law, these are all things that significantly impacted the number of people that went into jail between the 1980s and the 1990s. Many of these people that went into jail went in for substance use. And we know, working at Tarzana Treatment Centers at TTC College, that people who use substances have a medical issue. It is not a behavioral issue. It is not something that demands that they be locked up. But that's what happened. And so we're here to talk about that today and what TTC College strategically did and continues to do to address that. So I want to invite you into meeting two of the most important people at Tarzana Treatment Centers, and that is Warren Spurlock and Ashley McGowan. We're giving a big virtual hand clap, and for everybody listening online, I'd love for you guys to introduce who you are, why you're here, and why you do what you do.
Yeah, I can get started. My name is Ashley McGowan, and I am a program supervisor at TTCC, and I oversee some of our peer training programs, including some of our in-custody initiatives, as well as some of the wraparound services that we offer to justice-impacted individuals. I'm really excited to be here to talk about some of the issues we're seeing in our reentry and incarcerated communities and what the college is doing to be a hero to these communities.
Beautiful. Now you guys see what I'm talking about. And then Warren.
Yes, I oversee the MAT-PDDA program, and that's medications for addiction treatment and prescription drug and opioid addiction for Tarzana Treatment Centers. And I work along with the Tarzana Treatment Centers College to engulf and to work with those two programs together to create a out-based and community-based organization connection to help with addiction and how addiction affects the communities.
Yeah, and you do an incredible job with that. You speak all over, really, I want to say the state of California, really providing services, and you do a lot of work with people who are justice involved and organizations that are justice involved. And Ashley, you were pretty modest. You're going to USC and you're doing these phenomenal things. You're in the jails and prisons around the state, literally reforming. And it's really cool. I think the question is, how did we get here? How did we get to a place where a college like TTC College would even need to have programs to support people who are justice involved? When they go into jail and prison, it's the Department of Corrections. It's supposed to correct a behavior and then send people back into the community and help them reintegrate successfully. But it feels like there's something that's not going on. And I'm wondering, Ashley, from you, what is not happening? Like what's going on that's causing the need for us to have to step in, from your perspective?
Well, I think one of the biggest issues is that there's not opportunities for rehabilitation. And you said it, that it's the Department of Corrections. Really, it's supposed to be the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, but that opportunity is not widely accessible in these institutions throughout the state. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these institutions do have programming, but a lot of times there are very long wait list. A lot of times they're not available on every single yard, and they're not available in every single prison throughout the state. So that's one of the core issues there. And we know from evidence and research that these programs can reduce recidivism. So at the
What is recidivism for the
Yeah,
people in the
yeah,
back?
I
Because
can break
some
it
of us,
down.
these words are big, but what does that mean, and how does that apply to what we're talking about?
So recidivism, in its most simplest term, is basically when people will recommit the crimes and end up being incarcerated against. So folks who are being released from prison, if there are high recidivism rates, it means that they are more likely to reoffend and be sent back to prison. So one of the biggest issues is we have a high recidivism rate in California. And so I think what we want to do is, what are those gaps? And I think when we actually break down what these programs have to offer, there are not enough job training programs. A lot of times people are released, and because they have this background, they're not able to find employment, which also is unfortunately going to impact their ability to find housing. And so at the end of the day, we are not setting them up to actually re-enter society, especially for those who have been incarcerated for 20, 30 years.
Exactly.
The world has changed so much, and just adapting back into this society brings issues all on its own, let alone the ability to find jobs and find housing.
And then add on to that, having been justice involved, or having been a part of the criminal justice system, or having court cases, or being on parole or probation, and then you sort of exacerbate this issue of just living here and trying to succeed and survive. And you remember, Warren, the Jeffersons used to talk about moving on up. We're trying to get people to move on up, but it's really hard when you have these labels attached.
Right.
And, Warren, I think part of what you do is you do a lot of work with people who are coming out and who are inside prisons and jails. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, what's happening in the jail? What's happening in the prison right now? What are some of the things that you're hearing that, also are not setting up people for success?
Well, I think mainly is the lack of programs that increase the productivity of those that are close to their discharge dates or their freedom dates. So
what do we consider close? Is that like a couple years? Is that more like a few months?
I think a couple years to really get them acclimated into all the things that they need to do to prepare them. Like Ashley said, things have come a long way. A lot of these individuals have not even seen a road or a car in quite a few years. So
wait, so you mean they're coming out, but this might be their first time even seeing a Tesla, as an example.
Right.
Actually, literally, like not being on roads where there are electric. I just saw a car yesterday that had no driver in it. In LA, and I'm like, can you imagine what that's like to come out of jail and prison and to see that?
Yeah, and those things are pretty scary. They are scary for those that are coming out that time has moved so far away from them, and they are they just need to be acclimated to the way that they are adjusting to being out with their families. They have to renew their relationships. They have to renew their skills. Everything has to be energized with them to get them to a place that they're going to be productive again.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases they are just pushed out and aren't really ready to accept what's ahead of them.
Or have the tools.
And we like to look forward to kind of preparing them for these things and giving them some kind of understanding of what it is that they're going to be walking into. And that's what the great thing about our program does.
And that's one of the things that I love about working with both of you is you have this ability to spot need. And one of the things that I know you've done, Warren, and it's been legendary in Los Angeles, is that you have fought the good fight around overdose, and in particular, arming different parts of Los Angeles with Narcan, with Narcan training, with understanding of how people can come out of jail and prison and start using again, which is a normal thing. This is a medical condition. It happens sometimes, but the drugs are different. There's different stakes, and you might get a blunt from the street and you look up and you're now in a full-on overdose because it might be laced with fentanyl, which was not around when you went in at the rate that it is now. So I'm wondering from you, do you think that being able to provide support around the community is important? And what tips do you have for some of our viewers and organizations and people to kind of continue to keep that ball rolling?
Well, I think at this time, no family is immune to the prospective of drug overdose. It's hit every diaspora of Los Angeles, California, and the United States. And I think right now that everyone benefits from knowing the how these drugs are infiltrated into every part of our society. And in my opinion, we really have to pay a effort to be able to educate everyone, not just school-age children, not just high schoolers, right, not just college students, but everyone in the family needs to know what these drugs can do and what to do in case a drug overdose should happen. They happen in the home, they happen in the street, on bus stops, everywhere. So, and none of us are immune to being able to provide services to someone that goes down with an overdose. We should all know what the preparation and the actions are that we need to take when we see that happen.
I really love that perspective. And I think it's so uniquely important when you now add on the justice involved population, because they have the same things that we have to deal with as human beings in society, but there are additional layers of obstacles that they have to break through. And Ashley, I'm wondering from you, when you hear that, when you think about contextually, what's different for people who are returning from jail and prison and coming back to their communities, back to their families, back to a society that's much different, but there's a lot of the same issues that are happening? Like, what's different? Like, what do they have to deal with that's unique?
I think a lot of things has to do with the changes in the job market. I think a lot of the employment that we see now is built around technical roles, and the ability to operate technology is required in nearly all of the jobs that are out there right now.
Especially with AI.
Especially with AI. And I think that's, the biggest thing is coming back into society, first of all, having to learn how to operate a computer just in general, and then add sophisticated technology on top of that makes it even more challenging.
And we see that with our justice involved students. They come in, and for those of you guys who, a lot of people know TTC College, we have plenty of online programs and substance use counseling. We're going to talk about peer support, but that is something that you're seeing with your students, right? Is that there's a gap in their understanding and knowledge of computers and things like PowerPoint, and we use Moodle in our classrooms. So how do you guys deal with that? How do you guys support people who are in need?
I think it's about taking on a trauma-informed approach, understanding that there is an extremely valid reason as to why they are struggling with this technology and keeping up with the academic standards of the program, and meeting them where they're at is a huge thing, I think, in behavioral health field, but especially here at the college. I think it's something we really prioritize and something that the team really cares about, because we know the potential that these students hold. And if technology is the only thing keeping them back, that is doing a disservice to that student and that community if we're not giving them the tools to be successful. We can't give them this task and give them one instruction of, please complete this assignment, and
or send an email,
or send an email.
All of a hard time finding my inbox.
We really take for granted, of having to relearn all of that, learn a new skill just to be employed. A lot of people don't have to deal with that. Sometimes people are just given the tools. Sometimes people have access to the tools. But what happens when you are released back into society, into a race that people had a 2-minute head start on?
Oh, so now we're talking about equity, and really this idea that people, when they are coming back from jail and prison, that it's not their fault that there's been this gap of information. But I wonder, and I'm going to go to you in a second, I wonder from your perspective, what could be done behind bars that might support better when people leave? I know you've talked about job training, but are there other components that you think could really be helpful?
I do. And I think, California is trying to kind of initiate more reentry programming into the prisons. Whether or not it's successful is something we're going to have to wait to see when data comes out, when it actually starts kind of picking up steam throughout the state. I know at one of the prisons, Valley State, they actually have a facility where people who are about a year from their release date get to move into a new building, and they get to work with dietitians. They get to work with people to teach them how to do things like laundry, because so many of these individuals were incarcerated at 17, 18 years old.
Yes.
Maybe we're not doing their own laundry yet. And now they have to come back out into society as a full-fledged adult when they never got to learn those things. So those types of initiatives, that type of design, I think in those institutions can be really impactful when it comes to setting them up for success, not just in employment through job training programs, but all of the little things that we take for granted that kind of pop up in our day-to-day lives that we never really think that you have to learn that. And if you are not given that opportunity, you're not going to be successful.
I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal to think about the issues in equity and the ability for people to get some of this learning before they leave. And the work that they're doing at Valley State Prison up in Chowchilla is absolutely phenomenal. It's one of our biggest partners at TTC College. That was the first prison that we really started working with. And we've literally gone inside and we've graduated cohorts of inmates and people who are looking to give back to society. They're not just saying, oh, well, let me just sit here and do my time. But no, let me make that time something that can benefit this society. And Warren, you have a personal connection, as I think we all do. And I'm sure everybody watching this has some sort of connection to prisons, but you have a pretty strong connection. I'm wondering, from your perspective, can you talk a little bit about where you're learning a lot of this information from around needs and how we can better support people?
Well, like most Black people in Los Angeles, they have had a family member, a friend, or someone that has gone through the correctional system.
Yes.
I am no different. I have had a son that's been incarcerated for over 20 years. And through that interaction with him on a weekly basis, most of the time, I have felt his pain. I have felt his needs. I have felt even his growth in himself by being incarcerated. And I know that he is not the same person that he was when he went in. And now he's urging to be productive. He wants to put back into society. He wants to gravitate to a profession that is rewarding for him and his family and everyone else that he's involved with. So he has his own rehabilitation has taken place, and
can you stop and think about how beautiful that is for a father to be able to watch your son have to go through something really difficult and to see the changes and to see the rehabilitation. And it's such an incredible moment that I think all of us can be impacted by, and thinking about our loved ones who, might be down right now.
Yeah, but the main thing is we can't give up on them. I mean, and I'll mention this again, is the same person that sometimes goes in is not the same person that comes out.
Yes.
And we have to realize that, these people can be very productive citizens. They can be a productive part of society. Instead of casting them away for previous crimes and actions, we should be making an investment in bringing them back up to being the kind of person that can add to society, add to the the youth that are coming up and showing them the lessons to be learned. And I think that if we do that, we would be in a better situation with those that are having issues with recidivism.
You just really spoke the stories of so many, and I know about this from the Black community, like so many of our people that have gone down over the years, including my dad, who was in and out of the justice system from California Youth Authority through Soledad Prison. And he had his sentence commuted by the governor. And my dad went on to open a juvenile hall that is phenomenally recognized up in Monterey. And he had me afterwards. And I do think about what happens if we don't give people the opportunity to live, to come out and to live their lives. Because, you know, a crime should not mean that you are now a pariah of society. And how do we get other people to understand that? Like, Ashley, like, how do we get people to not just look at the inmate numbers that are posted on our citizens who are down? Like, how do we get people to not just see them as their crimes or the difficulties that they had that led them in? How do we get them to see them as full human beings?
Well, we need to completely change the narrative around crime and around criminal behavior and people who commit crimes, and realize that a lot of the times crime is a product of people's circumstances. People who can't meet needs for their family, people who can't keep a roof over their head because all of these systemic injustices that have created those obstacles in the first place. The other thing is we know that individuals who are coming back into society are just looking for a chance, just looking for an opportunity. And to deny them that chance, to deny them the ability to tell their own story about who they are and what they are interested in doing, is to contribute to the problem. So those two things, in my opinion, are going to be huge solutions. Being open-minded to someone who has a background with the criminal justice system, and being ready to hear them out and give them the tools to write their own story and to share it with others.
Okay, we're going to have to pause right there on that point, because I think we need to get now, later on when we come back from the break, we need to get into solutions. And how do we do exactly what you're talking about? Seeing people, like really seeing who they are, and being okay with getting rid of some of these archaic notions about what it means to be somebody with criminal justice experience, because it could be any of us for any reason. We'll be right back, and we are going to continue this conversation. Do not miss this. Do not miss it. All right, listen, we're back at Finding Hope, The Road to Recovery, and we are back with two phenomenal leaders in Los Angeles. And so I just want to get straight into it because we have some things we need to talk about. Now, Ashley, before we broke, you were talking about what we need to do to reframe the narrative around people who are justice involved. And one of the things I'm so proud of about TTC College is all of our curriculum for all of our programs has been written with the idea that it's culturally humble, even to people who are coming out of jail and prison. And you're a big part of that with the peer program that we have. I'm wondering, from your perspective, think back to our very first in-person cohort that we had for the peer support program years ago. And 100% of that cohort were people coming out of jail and prison who were reintegrating into society. Do you remember them talking about some of the needs that we could address somehow, or, you know, kind of calling out to us to say, hey, we need some help inside?
Yeah, I mean, I think they spoke a lot on the opportunity to participate in educational programming. I think they talked about how the programs that were offered there were not getting at the root cause of what they were interested in learning about or interested in naming what they had already experienced. And I think that's what our program did for them, that they had mentioned, everybody needs this. Everybody needs access to a program like this because the things we were teaching them, they already knew. They
Right.
needed the language. And that is what was going to kind of help them move forward in their path to reentry. And they talked about how it was a shame that it was something that they got access to afterwards instead of setting them up for success prior to release.
How beautiful that is. Now, we got them pretty close to them getting out of jail and prison, and they're all doing phenomenal from the things that I see. We have students who are now out here in organizations promoting this very message and healing people in substance use and mental health. And so I think that's absolutely incredible that we were able to be a part of that. But we also took it very seriously when they said, Golden, Ashley, Kim, there's things that we need. There's people that we left behind. There are people who are still inside who don't have this. And we don't have a lot of money at TTC College. I mean, we're a small behavioral health medical school. But it seemed like we needed to do something to address this. We couldn't just sit by and watch our students come out and repeat these same messages. Warren, do you remember our initial planning sessions for Crossroads and what that was like when we really talked about these issues and how we could potentially address them as a college?
Yes, it was interesting. You, Haben, and Ashley, and myself kind of brainstormed, and we brainstormed on what we could actually do inside these institutions that would bring a productive environment for those that were incarcerated, and that was just the bottom line. After we looked at that aspect, then it was very evident that we already had programs in place. We just had to adapt them. We had to adapt them for the curriculum for the population that we were going to serve. And when in doing that, after we established that, then it was just a matter of getting on the phone and contacting those institutions. That was very easy after that point. I remember just being on the phone, calling institution after institution, and asked them if they would be interested in any program, and most of them were. There is a lack of programs in most institutions that are dedicated to actually providing those kind of services, those reentry services for people that are potentially coming out soon.
Which is so strange because we have such a large population of people who are in jail and prison. And you would think that that would be at the forefront of the minds of everybody, who are making these decisions. And we're building a great relationship with CDCR across the state. And I think both of you guys have been a really big part of that. Ashley, when we talk about our work with the prisons in particular, what was our strategy? There's so many different ways we could have gone, but we as a group of people said, we're gonna launch Project Crossroads, X for Malcolm X, and Roads because we wanted to provide a pathway. But what was unique about the strategy that we had, and who did we talk to in these prisons?
I think what was unique about our strategy is that we knew we had nothing to lose, in the sense that why not just call them up? Why not just email them? Why not just reach out and see what they say? Instead of going through what feels like the standard procedures of mailing in a request to initiate a program, it was a matter of, well, let's get on the phone right now with someone and just let them know what we're trying to do and see what they say. So we really wanted to focus our efforts around the Community Resources Department.
Yes.
And so we would usually reach out to community resources managers and let them know this is what we have, this is what we're willing to do for the inmates there. Do you see a need? And the answer was always yes, if they answered. There were certainly some people that didn't reach out, but yeah.
It's state prison, and thinking about the resources that we were able to offer, like what is Crossroads? And either of you or both of you can answer this. What is Crossroads? What are we offering to these state prisons that will help to rehabilitate and to make sure that our returning citizens from jail and prison have a strong footing in both recovery and in the job market and everything?
So Crossroads is a number of things. It's mainly pre and post-release services. It starts with education, right, in the pre-release. So we offer them a peer training program. The schedule is adaptable to the institution's needs. So we've done 6-week programs, we've done 8-week programs, we've done 9-week programs. It just depends on what the students need as well, because they are working full-time for pennies a day, I might add.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we want to build a program around what's going to work for them. So that's the start of it, is getting an educational program to them that's going to set them up for employment. The peer training program, we know there's a huge demand for peers. So giving them that education is going to open up that door for them already.
Wow.
After that, once they are up for release or if they're up for parole, we start getting them connected with case managers that are going to work closely with them and getting linkage to care once they are released. So this could be primary care, it could be mental health, it could be substance use treatment, and then they're connected with a job placement specialist who's going to work alongside them to develop a resume, develop a career development plan, and start getting them connected to those opportunities that they might struggle to find with if they didn't have someone who can navigate that with them.
I mean, it's pretty iconic when you think about it, and we've had people who've worked at our college who have benefited from this type of program directly, and people who work at Tarzana Treatment Centers who've gone through this peer program and now have jobs, and they were previously unhoused or they were previously justice involved. And so it's almost like we're wrapping our arms around people who are coming out, and we're not just saying, oh, we'll teach you over here at the college, but if you need food, we'll make sure you have that. If you need dental work, we'll refer you to a dentist. Like if you need a job, we'll put you in an internship program. This is the model that we need to see around the world.
Okay. Every
Every organization needs to adopt this model of wrapping their arms around people coming out of jail and prison. And what's the benefit, of increasing at our jobs as supervisors, having people who are justice involved? What is the real benefit of that to our teams? What makes it now more unique or different?
Mm-hmm. I think that the main attribute that makes us cohesive with those that are coming out is that we benefit in their lived experiences. We are able to take those lived experiences that they have and be able to reinforce them, to say that those instances of situations in your life can be a benefit to you. You can teach others. You don't have to hide from it any longer, but you can bring that to society and help others in those situations where they might be going astray. And I think that is the main thing that any of our students, want to do. They don't want to go into a job interview and hide their situation and be able to say, well, I was in prison for so many years, and when they find out, then they're going to let me go. We don't have that situation. We are upfront with letting those that we are in contact with through these employment opportunities that, hey, these people have this lived experience that will be an asset to your organization. And that is what we produce.
That's right. An asset to the organization.
Right.
Not something to be tolerated, not something to be pushed aside and embarrassed about. Mm-hmm. It makes it better.
Right.
It means that we can genuinely reach more people. Like in the treatment world, there are so many people who are entering treatment who have criminal justice experience. Who better to work with them than somebody who understands what it was like to be down?
Exactly.
And Ashley, do you remember we were at Valley State Prison, and you've taught in Lancaster Prison, and we've been in the jails, and we're expanding all over the state. But I will never forget I went with you to graduate. I think it was our second group from Valley State Prison, all men. And we're talking about gangsters, thugs, like people who had these connotations of hardcore experiences. And I remember one student in particular who came up to me and said, Dr. Golden, I am moved that I've been able to, while I'm in prison, use the peer program and my certification to give back to people in here. That he wasn't just thinking about, I'm going to use this to get a job when I get out, but immediately I'm going to be able to change somebody's life. I might be able to stop somebody from suicide. I might be able to help somebody with their recovery. And how beautiful that is, because it's the people inside helping the people inside. Mm-hmm. From your experience in all of these programs and teaching and being in the jails and prisons, what's memorable to you? What's a story from one of your students that just gets at your heart?
It goes back to one of our first cohorts at Valley State Prison, and we were at the graduation, and we had probably about 20 minutes before the ceremony started, and I got to actually meet all of the students and connect with them. And I had graded their coursework, so I knew their stories, but I got to put a face to the name. Yeah. There was one student in particular who myself and Haben, one of our colleagues who set up this program, we were speaking with, and we referred to him as one of our students. You know, we let him know we always have our students back. You know, once you're up for parole, we can write you a letter of support. We can get you back on a path to education if that's what you're interested in. And he stopped us. And he had tears in his eyes because he said, no one has ever called me a student before. Ugh. They only call me an inmate. And that, I was speechless. Me and Haben looked at each other and it was like, wow, like something that it just made me realize that being a student is a privilege that a lot of people don't have. And it's something that could change lives. Education changes lives. We know this. So giving someone that opportunity, someone who has the knowledge, someone who has the skills and who has the heart, and just giving them the opportunity to put that into practice and seeing them be moved by it, I think was so powerful and something that will definitely stick with me for the rest of my life.
The students love our team. They love you. They love Haben in a really genuine way. And I think what you're saying is the reason why, because they're not seen as a number. They're seen for their name. You guys knew them by name. When they spoke to you and you met them for the first time in person, you had a context of who they were. You actually read their work. You actually annotated and listened to their stories of restorative justice and healing and wanting to do something good in this world. And there's so much beauty in that. It's a source of pride for me to be a part of this college and to be a part of a movement that is that serious about the lives of our community members who are inside, and knowing that they have an opportunity coming out. There was another story of a gentleman, and I think we've had several of these at this point, where there are people with life without parole, you know, people who are facing the death penalty, who have graduated from our program, who are certified Medi-Cal peer support specialists from TTC College. And what's the value for that? Because some people would say, oh, you're on death row, you're never getting out of prison, you have life without the possibility of parole. Why would it even be a good idea to go through one of our programs? Why become a peer at that point?
So for that, I think it goes back to mentorship. Everybody has the opportunity and potential to be a mentor. And that's what this program also does, right? It's not just about creating job opportunities for people once they're released. It's also about changing the culture inside the prison as well. And that's what the peer model can do. So a lot of the students who are going through the program who are condemned or who do have life without parole are part of programs to mentor youth offenders in hopes that they will turn their lives around, right? Of seeing this is an individual who's putting so much time and energy, who sees me, this is what I needed all along to help me get back on a path to, being a productive member of society. And that's what these individuals have the power to do, and what they start doing immediately as soon as they start going through the program.
Immediately. And we see it on the spot. There is not a question that people are coming out ready and motivated. Before they even leave the bars, they are already motivated. They are already writing letters. We've received letters from people in prisons all over the state at this point, prisons where we don't even teach. And they're hearing about TTC College from transfers, from staff. They're asking to be a part of this movement. They're asking and they're looking for something. And I wonder for you guys, there's a lot of people who are watching this who will say, well, I don't work in recovery. I don't work in the criminal justice field. I might be an accountant at Chase, or I might be a teacher. What's the call to action? Like, Warren, what can we do as a society to make sure that our people who are in jail and prison have a fighting chance, that we don't throw them away, that we're able to rehabilitate them and provide them opportunities to learn, to earn money, and to give back to society without judgment?
I think that, like I said earlier, these people are an investment. Usually they are, they have a inert way of accepting their new position and understanding where they came from. Knowing that where they came from, this new position in life is a blessing, and it is going to be a productive way for them to show that they can give back. And that's what you have when you have people that have been in these adverse situations and they realize what they've come through and where they are going, and they have a deep appreciation for their lives and what they're doing.
That is a very unique and essential way to look at this, which is, I went through a lot of grief in my life at a really important period, and I feel like it stripped away so much of the layers of masks and so much of the unnecessary things that it takes for me to just be a soul on this planet and give back. And what I hear you saying is that people who are in jail and prison have that experience in a different way.
Exactly.
And they are stripped in their own way, and they're able to come back with much more clarity than many of us outside have about what's important, the values that are uniquely and really American: justice, fairness, opportunity, giving back, service. That's what I see from our students who are coming out. I see them providing that kind of support. So I really appreciate that you said that. And Ashley, on your end, as this incredible educator and activist and beacon of hope and light within this justice system, really around the entire state, what do we do? What's our call to action? What can the little guys do like me, or what can our community members do to help end this pandemic? This just feels like it's been going on too long. I can't get canceled, but
I think on an individual level, it's about seeing someone as a whole person and not a mistake that they made in the past, especially when that person has gone through so much to take accountability for what they've done, and who has gone through the system and taken the opportunity to rehabilitate, to give them that opportunity to tell that story and to share it from their perspective and to give back, because a lot of them are looking to give back, and that's what they want to do. They want to redeem themselves and have that opportunity to be a hero to their community. The other side of things is always being critical of policy and what the unintended consequences are, or what the intended consequences are. So being thoughtful about what you're voting for and who you're voting for is always going to be important at the end of the day, and something that we all have control over.
I love this. I've loved reflecting with you guys today, and it reminds me of so much of the good work that's happening at TTC College and Tarzana Treatment Centers at large. You know, I'm grateful for the work that both of you guys do. You guys are speaking for people who have been historically marginalized. And a lot of times we talk about culture and we talk about race and ethnicity and people with disabilities and migrant status, but not often do people understand that there's a culture for people who are justice involved, and that we are all a part of dismantling the oppression that continues to hold people back. Our people inside are no different than the three of us sitting here at all. As a matter of fact, they are us. And we have a responsibility as a nation and as a state to make sure that our community is well taken care of. So I appreciate and I applaud on behalf of Los Angeles and the state of California, both of you, for the incredible work that you guys are doing. I look forward to continuing to watch you, and let me know whatever we need to fight the good fight. We're here for it. That's our time for today. I am completely full and grateful for this experience, and just understand that we all have a responsibility to make sure that our returning citizens are just that, returning, and they are treated as full citizens. Blessings. Catch you next time.
Brought to you by Tarzana Treatment Centers. You can visit our website at www.tarzanatc.org or call 1-800-996-1051.